Ever wonder if there's a way to get what you are asking for? Whether you're asking an audience to take action, an investor for their support, a donor for funds, or even just a potential client for a sale. Well, our guest on this episode has a system for this. Kristal Frazier is a captivating international speaker, results-driving trainer, and soon-to-be best-selling author. Affectionately known as the Queen of Conversation, she has facilitated speeches and presentations across North America, Europe, and Africa, and around the world online, teaching thousands of students, small business owners, nonprofit executives, and a host of other professionals how to collectively raise $200 million and counting from funders and individual donors over the past decade. While she knows firsthand how difficult fundraising can be, she also knows that understanding how to speak with confidence and authority is the key to fearlessly asking for and getting the funding and donations your organization or program needs, or the results that you're looking for. As a public speaking coach for organizations, entrepreneurs, college students, and nonprofit professionals, Kristal shares her talent and expertise through her signature training programs based on proven, time-tested, outside-the-box strategies you won't see taught by anyone else. Kristal is one of the speakers at the PSASA Convention 2024, and our next guest on the League of Visionaries podcast. Welcome to the League of Visionaries podcast, where we meet experts, entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts with a visionary message to share. This podcast is brought to you by YaziMedia Virtual Media House. YaziMedia is a proud media partner of the PSASA Convention 2024. We dedicate this second season of the podcast to the speakers and other visionaries behind this premier event for the speaking community. I'm your host, Marie Leroux, and this is the League of Visionaries podcast. Kristal Frazier, thank you so very much for being on the League of Visionaries podcast. We are thrilled to have you, and we are so excited about your presentation at the PSASA Convention 2024. And today, a chance to pick your brains. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Marie. I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conference, and I'm excited to discuss my talk that I hope will help so many speakers. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You have got such an empowering message, and so much of this podcast is about sharing a visionary message. If you had to put yours in a nutshell, and I know you've got a few good ones, what's your visionary message?
My visionary message is I started out as an introvert and new to the speaking world. And I think the one thing that pulls me through the butterflies I used to have, or really conveying my message with conviction and getting my point across, is that my message is more important than any fear or nerves that I have, and that the people in front of you or the people virtually are there to learn and gain knowledge. That's more important than any of your fears.
That is just such a powerful thought. And especially, even many speakers say that they are actually introverts, and stepping on the stage brings out something they might not have at a cocktail party. I'm certainly like that. You really want to scare me? Put me at a cocktail party, but put me on a stage and I'm fine. But for many people who haven't actually stepped into speaking, there's this tremendous block holding them back. When we have role models who have actually been through that journey, when we see people speaking with the confidence and the grace and the poise that we see with you on stage, and they say, I was scared to speak, that must have been a journey, and this idea of speaking without fear, speaking with impact, and the confidence, the deep self-acceptance runs like a golden thread through your work. And we're going to be getting into many more of the aspects of the great work that you do for speakers, for fundraisers, and for other people who are developing a speaking journey. But let's talk about your journey first.
Oh, my journey. Well, it's a very interesting one. And I wanted to help people with their journey, to know that, the keynote speakers that you see, anyone that has rose to a certain level, it was a journey getting there. So my journey started where I had to give a presentation, Marie, to the company that I was working for. It was like a 2-minute presentation, very first time speaking in front of anyone, really, besides my family or close friends. I thought, this is 2 minutes. I'll do fantastic. This is good. I got up there and I completely froze, completely froze. And I had another opportunity to do just a minute. And I did it and I sat down and I said to myself, I was filled with fear, but I couldn't wait to do it again.
Mm.
I got the speaking bug. I loved being in front of people and conveying the message when I could finally get it out. And I thought to myself, this is what I was meant to do. And so I'm thinking, what am I good at? What messages can I convey to people? What can I help them with? I've been a successful fundraiser for many years, over the $200 million mark. And so I said, you know what? I am going to help other people get myself out of the fundraising arena and help them with their fundraising. Because where it starts, Marie, is when you get in front of a donor, a prospect, or investor. What you say matters and translates into currency. So it's very important. And that's where my journey led me, to do that for people.
So you already had this expertise in raising funds,
Yeah.
but you hadn't done it from the stage, and you
Mhm.
started to extrapolate that experience into something where it could transfer to other people. I'd love us, as we go further, we're going to be exploring just how you convey that skill and how you empower other people, because you've got ripples and ripples and ripples of influence. And I think this is such a great example for any speaker. You've got your own speaking from the stage, but you also
Yes.
empower people to empower other people to raise funds. And that is like an incredible ripple effect that has so much, even more impact than just speaking from the stage. So you've really got a magic formula there, and it's making such a difference, because fundraisers have the need, right, of not-for-profit organizations, or
Mhm.
even a startup that has a big vision. So many of us need to go and make that ask. And
True.
we don't always know how. And just listening to you, I can see the expertise that is in there, the way that you are
Mm.
attentive and like really keeping the person that you're speaking to very
Mhm.
much on their toes and involved. And this is an art. It is a science. That is, of
Mhm.
course, the theme of the upcoming convention where you'll be speaking. But this is something that you're passing on. That the art of the ask is incredible. But you start with doing really solid homework. And I've been listening to videos of yours
Mhm.
where you tell fundraisers, go and research the people that you're speaking to. Now, they'd be researching donors, but we've been saying know your audience to speakers forever. It's become such a
Mhm.
mantra and an adage that we almost forget it. Now, Kristal, you teach strategies for how to research potential donors that actually apply to every person speaking to any audience. Why is it so important? And what is the heart of it?
Great question, Marie. Great question, because it's funny how much of fundraising just translates to really any sector, sales. If you have a startup and you're looking for investment, marketing, Okay, fundraising can really be another word for marketing your
Mm.
organization as well. It can be
Wow.
interchangeable. So there's many formulas that you can use, but the one that I always think about, if I'm going in front of a donor or a prospect, I do my prospect research. What does that mean? That means internet research, looking at annual reports, researching through Google Alerts as to where that potential donor or prospect is spending their money already. Maybe there's databases that I am using. How does that translate when you're speaking in front of an audience? I do the exact same method when I have a speaking engagement. If I have just received a speaking engagement in front of a brand new audience that I'm unfamiliar with, I research their careers, I research their interests, I research the topic that I'm doing for new information. I always include, Marie, statistics and data that are applicable to the audience. Now, there is something that I want to convey to new speakers and speakers who have been speaking for a while. When you include stats, data, proof, case studies, when you include that, you also have to inject some humor within your speaking engagement, within your talk, within your presentation, humor that they can relate to, that's
Mm.
industry specific. Okay, there's many examples of that, but it makes your talk sing, it brings it alive. And I tell you, the most successful speaking engagements I've ever had, Marie, is where I balance the humor with the information, if you will.
Mm.
So you are an entertainer to some point, but you also are an information carrier. Okay, they need those statistics, but the balance is important. And I think that's the formula that you can use. The heart of what you're saying is the reason why you're in front of them, the reason why you want to convey your message. I gave a talk on confidence, having confidence in hard conversations. The audience was 850 doctors, orthodontists, if you will. And it was very interesting that I pulled statistics from their profession, from their industry, but also the humor related to their industry. How, I hate going to get root canals, that I appreciate the work that they do and all of this stuff. And they just laugh. They love it because they want to be inspired, but they also want to be informed. So I think that's the balance, Marie, to inspire, which your humor comes into that, and then to inform.
That's such a beautiful balance. And it goes all the way back to the roots of rhetoric. The classics would say this is logos and pathos, they would say, right? The logical side and then the emotional side. But when we can do that for our audiences, it actually translates into results. Every speaker wants a result.
Right.
You have specialized in a call to action that involves making a donation or making an investment,
Mhm.
but those results could be anything for any different speaker. So what you're speaking of is so relatable for every speaker.
Yes, absolutely. You want your call to action. If it's not fundraising related, of course, you're going to do the ask. You're going to end it with how they could volunteer, help your programs, be an ambassador, maybe become a board member on the advisory board. There's some type of call to action. When you finish your speech as a speaker, your call to action is to challenge them to take a tidbit of your information, not the entire presentation. It's too
Mm.
much for us to process, but a tidbit of your information and see if it works in their everyday life.
Mm.
Challenge them on that, because it depends on the type of audience you have, but they love being challenged. I'll receive emails saying, hey, this worked, and they'll tell me how it worked. So your call to action in a regular speech is to challenge them and see if they can take some of your information and apply it to their career or their everyday life.
So that already brings results. And that's something that's so
Mhm.
important for speakers. And of course, we want the evidence that we've had an impact. And if we don't
Mhm.
ask for something, we don't have any kind of metric. So actually asking for donations, for example, is a very interesting one because you actually can measure it. And I love the way that you elicit that people get back to you and say, when you've taken up this small challenge, go and implement this one thing and let me know how it goes. There you have evidence. And what were you saying about facts and statistics, right? That begins to back up what we do as speakers. Now, asking is an art. And you've developed a system called the assertive ask. And it's especially for fundraisers, if I understand correctly. But we realize how many of us, when we are standing on a stage, are actually asking for something. Now, there's a whole system behind it. You've mastered it, but you've also trademarked it. It's really something that you're passing on to multiple generations. What is the heart of this system?
Many years ago, what I was being told was not working for me. The assertive ask system, and it's more than a fundraising system, it's a confidence system, if you will. Asking for money, investments, or anything like that, it's more than fundraising. You have to get what you talked about, the heart. You have to get to the heart of the matter. Okay. And that's the assertive part, being very clear in what you're asking. Most of my success with fundraising is the reason is because I'm always clear in what I'm asking. My prospect never has to wonder. They don't have to wonder about the meeting. They don't have to wonder what I am going to ask. They don't have to worry about my agenda because I am extremely clear. Now, part of the assertive ask is infusing empathy into your ask. What does that mean? There's a method within the assertive ask that I use called tact, tone, and timing. And so with tact, tone, and timing, I came up with this because of the times we're living in, 2023, going into 2024. We have to have empathy for people, even donors, with what they may be going through, their initiatives changing, their lives changing, the social unrest in the world that affects them as well. The tact, the tone, the way you're asking them in a virtual space, okay, because you're not going to be able to be in front of the donor all the time. So use your virtual space wisely, okay? Come across as confident, but also with empathy, asking them questions about their situation that they're comfortable with sharing, okay? The timing, tact, tone, timing. The timing of your ask is very important. When you're asking, you need to kind of see what that prospect or donor, what they're working on, who they're supporting, other organizations. If this is not the time to ask them, timing changes your benchmarks and your goals in fundraising. And it's the reason why I was able to meet mine all the time. Okay. There are years where whatever's going on in the world is going to affect your benchmarks. So it wasn't something that happened every year, but almost every year I met my benchmarks with ease because of tact, tone, and timing. So that's part of the assertive ask, the trademark system. Confidence is another part of that as well. So the empathy part, it's different than the other fundraising teaching programs you have out here, because that empathy is a part of it, and also diversity. The world is extremely diverse. You know, we're not meant to be the same. The way you speak to people, the way you have your message go over to people in other cultures, that matters. It matters. So that is a part of the assertive ask as well. It's cultural, it's global if you want success. And I will say, Marie, the number one thing that I find with, because universities use assertive ask and nonprofit and sales teams are the main clients. what they tell me they find is that they're happy for the diversity component, the empathy component, because it makes it less salesy, if you
Yes.
will. You know, the empathy is infused in there somehow, where we actually care about the donor. We actually care about what they think, not just, it's not transactional, just transactional, if you will.
That relational element explains so much, but also this idea of clarity and actually working around this. And those are real gems you've just shared with our audience there. So let's see, it's the 3 T's and tact, tone, and
Tone
timing.
and timing, correct.
So much of what a speaker does is asking for some kind of action, some kind of result. And very often that does involve a sales element, but the relationship is what really makes it work, because there is caring, there is the result. And so many speakers today really have something of so much value to add. But they do sometimes speak of a kind of an asking fatigue. And when you put things in such clear terms and you make it so relatable and you make it so clear, transparent, and respectful, that actually makes this ask something that we can sustain, that it's a gift. It is a gift to give the opportunity to donate or invest, or perhaps support a speaker with a speaking engagement or a training engagement. If you're enjoying learning from our guests, just imagine attending their presentations and meeting them in person. At the PSASA Convention 2024, you can do just that. The PSASA Convention is the biggest annual event hosted by the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, the PSASA, a membership body which exists to support the common needs of professional speakers. During its 17-year existence, the convention has been consistently attended by an enthusiastic audience, primarily based in South Africa. It has, however, over the years also become a popular event with international speakers looking to develop their African network. PSASA 2024 is the ideal opportunity to interact with peers and spend time with decision makers in a space where creativity, innovation, and connection are at the forefront. Find the link to book your spot at the end of this episode and in the description. You also support speakers and aspiring speakers and accidental speakers, which is an interesting breed, right? With your Speak Up network and this process of building confidence. Tell us more about that, Kristal.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Speak Up Network came about when I realized that our personality plays such a part in the type of speaker we are. You ever notice when some people, they have dry humor, some people are a little more analytical, and some, their entire speech and presentation is just pure entertainment. That is part of our personality and who we are. And so years ago, I started writing fundraising speeches and speeches for organizations who have to make the ask at events, and had no problem doing that, kind of a ghostwriting type of thing. And I noticed with it, the speeches that I was getting, there was no empathy, there was no humor, it was transactional. And I'm thinking to myself, having a conversation with the donor or having a conversation even with your audience, it makes a difference. You know, when I stand in front of, especially over 500 people, I make sure to engage one or two of them somehow, because then it gets the entire audience laughing, they're understanding, they're a part of it. We really want to be a part of the conversation. And so that's the same with the Speak Up Network. It is a community of fundraisers and speakers from all different walks of life. It is a global effort, okay? And we go over their speech. You have a captive audience who will support you, who will not belittle you in any way, who will encourage you and offer constructive criticism. So it's an opportunity for speakers, fundraisers, anyone who has a speech or a presentation to get real, true, and honest feedback, and especially the feedback that I give to them, because it's in real time. I don't get a speech, redline it, and give it back to them. I actually do this in real time. And so that's what the Speak Up Network is about, because when they start out their speech, I'll always say, okay, Marie, it's your turn to speak up, and that gets them going. And so that's what we do in the Speak Up Network. I want them to speak up, have confidence, convey their message. And that is my job that I'm so passionate about. From that very first speech, I knew what I was going to do with my life, and I love doing it. And so by the time that they give their speech presentation, they're rocking and rolling. They're ready. They're ready. And it shows. So that's what the Speak Up Network is. So I encourage your speakers, fundraisers, anybody who has a script or a speech, or if you need one, to absolutely join.
That's just solid gold, because the support in the process of becoming more proficient speakers is it's half the game. Really understanding what other people go to hone the speeches, the presentations that they make in the end. And it doesn't just happen like that. It really is a process.
Yes.
That is a great gift. And we'll be sharing your links at the end of the show and in the description, so that people who are interested in this can really take advantage of that opportunity, because it's such a focused way of developing the presentation together with your assertive ask system. And that is just super. So, Kristal, you've also written a book, and your book has this beautiful, beautiful title, For Every Flaw, The Journey to Accepting Yourself and Embracing Who You Are. And I'm hearing an echo of that in the fact that you say speakers are so individual. Your personality guides the way you speak most effectively. And traditional speaker training told us all, this is how you make a good speech. You start with your little punchline, opener, icebreaker joke, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. But the truth is, what you're hinting at here is it's not going to work for everybody. What really works is speaking from your heart. So do tell us more, Kristal, about speaking from your heart, living from your heart, and how this relates to your book, For Every Flaw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So For Every Flaw is 5 years in the making. It was an effort putting this book out, because it's very personal. And I had this talk with myself, Marie. I said, if I'm going to help other people overcome their flaws, overcome, the hesitation that they have, the comparison. These are flaws that I talk about in the book: perfection, hesitation, being a pushover, comparison, your mindset, all of that. If I'm going to help them, then I need to actually tell them personal, real life stories that I've had to overcome. And so that's what the book addresses, and how that relates to your speeches and everything is you want to convey your message to people in a way that shows who you are. Because Marie, I did what you indicated. At first, I had a script of, you have an intro, you tell a story, a joke here or there, and then you present your stats. That did not work, and I was not getting rebooked. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get up there and have a conversation. I, of course, have a structure, but my speeches and my presentations are more of a conversation where I include the audience somehow. Okay. And that's what I started doing, showing who I really am, my personality. That's when the rebookings happened, because I really think, and my talk is titled Unveiling Authenticity in Front of Virtual Audiences. That's why I titled it that way, because people know when you're authentic. They really do. We live in a world of everything is manufactured, from the pictures we see to anything online, you don't know if it's real or not. There is a hunger, Marie, for authenticity. Because believe it or not, because of the world we live in, if you're authentic, that is the difference. That is the difference now. It is not the norm, it's the difference. So you want to show people how authentic you are. So with For Every Flaw, my book, when I talk about hesitation, I give them a choice, a challenge, and a change for each flaw. And there are 9 that I cover. So say if we're talking about our mindset, we have to make a choice when it comes to our mindset. And then there's several that I list. The challenge, you have to challenge yourself, because without challenge, you won't get to the 3rd C, and that's change. So you have to go through that. And I'm a person that's big on affirmations, Marie, positive thinking, positive words coming out of my mouth that will control the positive thinking that I have. So the affirmations, each chapter ends with affirmations that will help you not to compare yourself to anybody else. Okay, because the comparison game is really, really strong in the public speaking arena. It is easy to compare to someone else and say, well, why are they doing better than I am? The book addresses how to get out of that mindset, because it will literally ruin your day. It will ruin your day. I have had it happen to me several times. You want to get out of that mindset. So that's how it's related. The success of fundraising, people look at that and they look at numbers and say, wow, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's because most of those, the ones that weren't grant writing, they started with a conversation. I develop and build relationships. There are donors that I no longer work with the organization that I still get contacted via email. How are you doing? What do you think about this nonprofit? Do you know anything? They're asking for my opinion because I treated them like a human being. So it's relationships that matter. The flaws we have, some of them we'll never get rid of. I think I will always be a perfectionist in some way. It's just who I am. But I don't let that flaw consume me. So the book teaches how to overcome it, how to overcome that flaw.
That is such a beautiful connection and so relevant for speakers. It's like you say, that temptation to compare ourselves. And in a way, you've almost given us the escape clause for that. Because if everybody, well, every speaker who is authentic is completely themselves, you're unique. There's no comparison on that ground. And that is already a gateway to this. And we're living in a time, you've spoken about the spirit of our times in relation to your assertive ask system and the 3 T's. But we're all becoming so much more aware of how important authenticity is. And as speakers, it's definitely a big selling point. In fact, it might be the only thing that really sets anybody apart in the end. And it's a beautiful idea to think that there really is an opportunity for every speaker in their unique, authentic presentation. Now, you've got an empire. We've heard about your fundraising work. You've got your company, FundJoy LLC. You speak. You are an author. You've got this lasting legacy that you're building through your assertive ask system. But there's a lot behind this. You say to many of your audiences, I know as fundraisers, you're wearing 20 hats a day. And it sounds like you've also managed to wear your 20 hats and juggle them with so much grace. What are your secrets? How do you stay grounded?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question, Marie, because I'm going to be very honest with you. I have been asked, how do you have work-life balance? How do you do this? My balance came and the peace came for me when I threw all of that out the window. Of course, I live and breathe by to-do lists, project management systems, and all of that. I'm very much a person who's deadline driven. I want a timeline. In fact, I create the timeline for clients. I don't wait for them to do the timeline. It makes me feel better as a person who lives by blueprints. But I can tell you the balance of work-life balance, it changes every day. And so the way that I thrive in the work-life balance, in getting everything done, is to realize that some days are just going to be more successful than others. That if I have to have another day one, then that's fine. Day one, we're starting with this and we're going to do this differently. Be flexible with yourself, okay, within the deadline. And also give yourself grace to know that you're doing the best you can, that you're trying to juggle personal development, your business, your life, work, kids, whatever you're passionate about, your hobbies, and then downtime, and then something they call self-care. We're trying to squeeze that in as well. So give yourself grace. The moment I gave myself grace, Marie, is when I felt free. I felt free of trying to have this perfect balance every day. As long as everything is getting done within the deadlines, I freed myself of the perfect day, if you will. Perfectionist is one of those flaws I talk about, and it's probably the longest chapter because it's one of the flaws that I have dealt with ever since I could remember. And if you are one of those people, I encourage you to do these 3 words and let it go. Let it go. Give yourself grace and know that you're doing the best you can. Balance is not going to be every day. Sometimes you will just have imbalance and be okay with that. Be okay with that.
That's beautiful. I think for so many people in our audience, especially the speakers, the visionaries, the people who have so much that they're working towards and this big vision of the one day, and it is a never-ending to-do list. This is great, great information. So I'm going to quote you on that. Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Free yourself. Please let it go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, one of the little pieces that came up in my research, because I also have to do my homework, was that on the back of your book cover, you speak of your granddaughter, and you also speak to about donors and generational giving. This is beginning to take a very long view in terms of generations and leaving a legacy as a mother, as a grandmother, and as an originator of a system that is having a generational impact. How do you see legacy? How has this process and this growth influenced your view of one lifetime and what goes beyond?
What goes beyond? Marie, that's a great question because I'll be honest, I was one of those people, especially when I was younger. I'm thinking, why is legacy so important? Legacy became important to me when I lost both of my parents. That's when I realized life is not forever. Life is just not, and they had long, beautiful lives. So it was a blessing to me to even have parents that were just that caring and that loving. But losing them made me realize that I'm not going to be here forever. And I want to leave a legacy to my grandchild. So going through that grief and then having my one and only grandchild, legacy is everything now. It's everything. I created the assertive ask system as something that will outlive me, that the introvert can use when they have a benchmark and a job that they need to keep. And if they don't make the benchmark, it is a bad thing for them and their life. They have people depending on them. I created the system to let my granddaughter know that as a woman, she can dream her wildest dreams, have her own business, carve her own path, and not depend on anybody or anything to make her dream happen and also believe in herself. I want that very deeply for her, to be a confident woman. And so legacy is everything. I have twin boys who are adults now, 31 they are. And so it's important that they see the journey that I've been on, how I have evolved. They know that. And that's why I put at the back of my book, thanking them for, they encouraged me when they didn't even realize they were encouraging me. When you have family that mean the world to you, and you understand that life is a cycle. When we lose people, and then my granddaughter coming into the world, that it really is a cycle. I want my years here to matter. I want things to outlive me that people can still use, that they can pass down, something she can pass down, that thinking, that confidence that I have. She may not go into fundraising, but it's important to me to pass down that she can carve out her own path, just the way her grandma did. So that legacy is everything.
That's beautiful, and what a beautiful legacy to pass down. The example and the fact that systems like that are possible. It's probably something that not enough speakers have tapped. In a world where a speaker easily thinks, well, my work is maybe the book. The book is already moving a little bit towards a lasting legacy, but a speaker who is only reaching people when they're on the stage is very, very limited. So having a system like this that can be passed on really begins to expand what a speaker can do, and the impact, because that visionary message deserves to be heard, and so many people can benefit from it. It really seems that your system is benefiting people in ripples and ripples. That's just wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm very grateful that people understand and that they resonate with it. It means so much to me that it's taught in universities. That means the next generation has a fundraising system and a confidence system that they can use when they're stuck, don't know what to say, when they have pauses and silence. It's important to get back up again, because you'll lose the sale. You will not make the ask in the right way. So I'm glad and thankful that the assertive ask system is something that is being used to help the next generation. I love that.
Right. That's wonderful, because so many people benefit. They benefit because it's a transferable skill. It doesn't just apply to fundraising, but also because all these organizations then can benefit from a system that helps them to raise funds and do the good work that they do. And you mentioned universities. So I had a question at the back of my mind after going over your LinkedIn profile. And I thought, should I ask this? Shouldn't I? So you mentioned universities, and this made me think I should ask you this question. So you have a strong academic background culminating in an MBA. We're living in a time where there are so many alternatives to how to learn what we need to learn. And there's time pressure. And the University of Hard Knocks is maybe giving us more opportunities than ever before. There are so many ways to learn. How do you feel an academic education can benefit a speaker? What benefit has it brought you? And how important is it for a speaker to look into this kind of option at a time when there are so many others?
That's a great question. So I am a big supporter of education, of learning, to continue to learn. I am really of the mindset, never stop learning. Your personal development as a speaker is so important, because there are so many ways to give a speech, to give a presentation. You really have to find what works with your personality. So Academics can help you with that, but you also want to pair that with real experience. I encourage speakers to join associations. Find your tribe, if you will. Find your people that have mentorship programs that can help you along your journey. It made such a difference in my speaking career once I joined a few associations, but one or two in particular. It it makes a difference because you are all speaking the same language. You all want the same thing. You want successful careers. You maybe want to be a full-time speaker. You maybe want to be a part-time speaker. You may want to do this in addition to your own career. To be successful at it, I encourage you, don't go at it alone. Find your people. It's extremely important to have an academic education in speaking and confidence. You know, it's nice when you're a part of a class where you are all learning and then you can bounce ideas off of each other. It's the same concept of this as a Speak Up network because it's a community. So having that community, however you would like to do it, whether it's a university, whether it's a two-year college, whether it's a course or an association which has their own courses, however you want to do that, join and find your people, find your community, and it will make such a difference in your speaking career.
Oh, Kristal, what a wonderful answer, because I think you've really shown that there are alternatives for different people who learn in different ways. Some of us really light up with the academic world. Some of us don't feel that's a comfortable way to learn. The association model can be so much more appropriate. For some people, it will be all of the above, but there really are ways, and not doing it alone is a powerful, powerful answer. And on the topic of associations, of course, the professional speakers associations worldwide are wonderful ways to do this. In the States, you have the National Speakers Association. And
Correct.
of course, what brought you to this podcast is the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, which has its convention in 2024. And you will be speaking on a topic that brings together a lot of your expertise. And your presentation is called The Art and Science of Connecting with Virtual Audiences. That is such a relevant matter. And you're even going to be walking the talk by presenting virtually. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Now, we're not going to let the cat out of the bag because we want people to be at this convention and experience it for themselves. But what will people take away from your session? Why is it one worth attending?
Oh, so unveiling authenticity when you're speaking to virtual audiences. I will cover the different personalities that we deal with when we are people: introvert, extrovert, ambivert. You are one of them. So we are going to cover all of them and how that personality comes across on the camera. So I consider myself an ambivert. I'm introverted, but I have a strong extroverted side. So they're both there. Both of those dynamics, they come across on the screen, whether you believe it or not. We will go over and talk about that. We'll also talk about if you're making the ask or if you're doing your speech, what structure should you have? Remember, we are going to tackle that structure from a conversational standpoint. That is the way that you're successful when you are speaking to virtual audiences. Because remember, when you're in person, there is an element of electricity in the room. You get instant feedback from the audience. When you are presenting virtually via Zoom, Teams, whatever you're using, that electricity sometimes is waned. You can't grab it, if you will, easily. It's not accessible as much. I will show you how you get that electricity online. There are ways to do it. And there's a reason why We started presenting virtually during the pandemic, and we're still doing it. Me and Marie probably would have never met if it wasn't for a virtual component. It matters. It makes the world more accessible when you're presenting virtually, because your speech is not local, it's not even national, it's global. It's global. That is a huge difference. It'll be a difference in your career as well. So I want you to grasp the authenticity part of presenting virtually, and we'll discuss that. How you come across the screen matters. And it also matters in your rebooking, because they'll want you, unlike in-person formats where sometimes each year they may want different people. You can have virtual speaking gigs for years and years and years. I am a testament to that. Okay. That's also what the virtual world does for you. If you can do it in an authentic capacity, you can get rebooked over and over, even if you're a new speaker. Okay. And tech has very little to do with it. So we're going to talk about that as well. Okay. Don't let the tech scare you.
Kristal, that sounds like a bonanza and a really, really good reason to, well, actually a string of really good reasons to experience your talk. What strikes me as you speak of the electricity that there is in the room when you're presenting live. But I have to say, I've been feeling the electricity since you appeared on my screen. So there's obviously something about what you're sharing, and the bottom line of that, this authenticity that is this golden thread running through, and the confidence in who we truly are as speakers and as human beings. Really, really powerful stuff.
Yes.
Kristal, finally, for people who want to follow you, learn from you, book you, where should they go? Best place.
Absolutely. So where you should go is my website, kristalfrazier.com, KristalFrazier.com. And if you want to shoot me an email and book, you would send it to admin@kristalfrazier.com. And if you want to join the Speak Up Network, there is a button at the top of the website that you just click, and it'll take you to the application. And if you have questions about becoming an Assertive Ask licensed partner, then you can also click that button or go to assertiveask.com.
That's magic. And Kristal, I have to say, having looked at your website and your other materials, I love the way everything is right there, easy, simple, and completely compelling. It's a great example for every speaker. It's been such a pleasure having you on the League of Visionaries podcast. We can't wait to see you at the PSASA Convention 2024, talking about the art and science of connecting with virtual audiences. Kristal Frazier, thank you so very, very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you, Marie. I enjoyed this interview, and I'm so excited for the conference. Let's go.
You've been listening to the League of Visionaries podcast, brought to you by YaziMedia Virtual Media House. YaziMedia is a proud media partner to the PSASA Convention 2024. All the guests on this season of the podcast will be speaking at this premier event for speakers. Book your spot at the PSASA Convention 2024 on the PSASA website at www.psaSouthernAfrica.co.za.